Welcome back. David Hertel in for Elias. Well, other bad news this week about vacancy rates, not only in Montreal, but across Quebec, across the country. Lowest we've seen in decades. And with inflation, cost of renovations, construction, labor shortage, everything that's going on here, we're expecting a lot of problems with lease renewals. Because here we go again, every year, we're starting the slow, difficult march towards July 1st. And so it's time to get the notices and the renewals and negotiating. And a lot of landlords are going to be talking with their tenants about maybe negotiating some sort of increase because of the high taxes and the costs and everything that's going on right now, the difficult economic times, putting pressure on tenants as well. So how to navigate all this? Time now to speak with Arnold Bennett, who's a housing advocate. He's on the line. Arnold, we need your help, sir.
Yeah, well, let's try.
All right.
Government's made it harder this year.
Yeah, haven't they? So tell me, maybe let's start with, okay, you're a tenant and you have to get a renewal notice from your landlord. That's the law. What are the delays involved for that?
Landlord must send the notice 3 to 6 months before the end of the lease. So they could have, if it's a lease that's up at the end of June, they could have sent the notice as early as the beginning of January and as late as the end of March.
And is there a particular way it must be sent? Does it have to be a written letter, paper letter, email, call?
It has to be in writing with proof of delivery. Now, that used to be registered mail, but you can now prove delivery of email.
Okay.
The key thing is proving delivery, because if somebody sends an email and it's not received at the other end, it's going to create a big gray area if it ever goes to court. So if people are sending emails, they should check that they are received.
Yeah, so they have to check their spam probably as well, right?
That would be a good idea, but that's where it becomes a gray area. And I've heard of emails going to the wrong mailboxes and landlords claiming they sent emails and they were never in fact received, or landlords using new software that the tenant isn't signed on to, and all kinds of new stories that are complicating things. So, in terms of sending the refusal of the increase, same principle. Make sure you know that it's accepted, received on the other end.
Yeah, because so just want to clarify one point before I move on to the next question. The latest a landlord can send the renewal is March 31st, correct?
If it's a lease that's up at the end of June.
Right.
The deadlines are different for other end dates.
But it's 3 months, right?
Yes.
So
correct.
if your lease is up June 30th, the latest date is March 31st for the renewal.
Let me give you one important exception. If somebody is on a lease that does not have a fixed term or that is shorter than
a year?
Than a year, the deadline is 1 to 2 months.
I see. Okay. So so then you have to respond, right? The tenant has to respond to that notice.
Yeah, in this case, they have to respond. There's some types of notices that not responding is the same as a refusal, but not a rent increase. If you don't respond, you are stuck with the increase no matter how outrageous it may be.
Okay, so you have to respond either yes, no, but you have to respond. Is there a delay there as well?
1 month from the landlord's notice.
1 month.
Yeah.
So not 1 month from March 31st, automatically. 1 month from reception of the notice.
Yeah, and that's extremely important because let's say somebody decides they want to leave.
Yeah.
If they miss that deadline, they're stuck for another year.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that. They think they can wait to 3 months before the end of the lease. No.
Right. No. Okay. So that's very important as well. Now, next step, the increase. So let's say the notice is sent on time and the increase is proposed by the landlord. The law provides that the increase can be just up to a certain amount, correct?
No.
No. Okay.
The government issues guidelines.
Guidelines.
And there is no maximum because there's the base guideline, which is worse this year in some cases and better this year in other cases. All right? So
there's no maximum increase by law?
No. And let me make this clear. All right? The tribunal can set the rent based on the landlord's actual costs. Those costs will be based on the base guideline, plus taxes, plus insurance, plus major repairs. So those are the extras that people should watch for. Everything else on the calculation form from the tribunal is basically built into that base increase. Now, what are the base increases? For electricity and self-heated this year, it's the worst it's been since the 1980s. It is 4% minimum. Now, lots of people are used to, even last year, which was a horrible year for many people, the base increase for self-heated units was 2.3%. So people have been used for many years, self-heated units to 1%, 2%, even last year, and now it's way up to 4%. And that's the minimum. So on top of that, there could be a tax increase, there could be an insurance increase, there could be major repairs. For gas heated, which last year was a very bad increase, it was 4.5 plus plus. Mm-hmm. This year it's 3.3 plus plus. And oil heating last year was over 7, and this year it's only 1.6 plus plus. Okay, so there's not that many people with oil heating anymore. There's a lot of people with gas heating. It's not as high as it is for electricity this year, and a lot of people don't know that.
So, Arnold, what do you? And I know this is an impossible question, but I'm still going to ask it. What do you think, just generally speaking? I know each case is different, but generally speaking, in these difficult times, economically, what do you think is a reasonable increase for rent?
Well, I think the principle that people should go on here is if the landlord is asking maybe up to 1% more than that base, they're probably in the range. But here's how people should be dealing with it. There is a calculation form the landlord is supposed to provide to the tenant in order to facilitate negotiation. This is called the Cal 24 form. It's provided by the tribunal. A lot of landlords who want to settle do provide this form, and maybe they might put wrong numbers on it or do a miscalculation, but generally if you get that form, you've got something that you can work from. You've got an idea of whether the landlord's being reasonable or not. Some landlords do not provide the form or refuse to provide the form. Well, then they got something to hide, don't they? Because this form is not that hard for a landlord to fill out.
So, Andrew, my question becomes, how do you navigate all of this? I mean, do you find this on the Régie du Logement website, or you work with advocacy groups? How does one navigate through all of this?
Well, first of all, that form is available to the landlord to fill out. The form itself is a blank form. It's useless. Okay? So the landlord has to plug numbers into it and provide it to the tenant. So what I've been telling people to do is if the landlord, say it's a self-heated or electrically heated building, and the landlord sends an increase and says, I want 8%, or I want 10%, or I want 6.5%. Okay, what are the numbers that justify this? Was there a tax increase? Was there insurance increase? Were there major repairs?
So,
and
yeah, I understand.
The response to the landlord from the tenant is, I want to renew the lease, I refuse the increase, and send me the TAL calculation to justify the cost.
So that is, of course, in an ideal world where there's actually dialogue between the landlord and the tenant.
No, that's assuming there's no dialogue.
Well, even that, I've seen a lot of cases where even that doesn't happen. So I'm running out of time.
Well,
I just have a final question. Yeah. I can't get in too much into the details, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But my final question, and what happens? What do you do when you're going through all this and the tenant says, no, I'm not accepting anything more than say 5%, and the landlord says, well, the best I can do is 7%. What do you do then?
The landlord has to apply to the tribunal within 1 month of the refusal. If he doesn't apply to the tribunal within the deadline, there's no increase at all.
And if the landlord still moves ahead with the increase,
then
what does the tenant do?
The tenant just sits and waits for the hearing. The landlord has to present his numbers to the court, and the judge will decide based on the law, based on the regulations, how much of an increase the landlord is entitled to. The negotiation is if there is good faith. That is, if the landlord shows numbers, the tenant and the landlord can reach an agreement. If the landlord refuses to show numbers and is asking for a big increase, we can possibly assume that there's something fishy.
Very interesting insights as always, Arnold. Really appreciate you coming on this morning.